And so whenever I started getting exposed to the industry as a whole, I just started to do my own research and start reading up on it and started talking to coworkers to gain their thoughts and kind of gain some mentors within the industry. And that's really where I got my interest to move more into security as a whole.
So you went in that systems engineer role. Do you count that as like a cybersecurity role, or do you count like your first pen testing consulting role as your first cybersecurity role?
So I would consider the system engineer role a security role, but it was more of a infrastructure security role, if you will, where we're spinning up new firewalls, responding to certain EDR alerts that correspond to servers that I'm over, things like that. A little later on, whenever I started doing consulting for pen testing, is whenever I started to kind of grow and expand my knowledge and started putting some of that into more of a actual practice rather than just in training.
And then, so what made you go from your consulting role to your non-consulting role?
To be completely honest with you, consulting is so different than internal testing. There's certain play that you have as an internal tester that you don't have as a consultant. And then just some of the meetings and the processes that you have to do in a consulting role that you don't have as an internal tester is what I would say is like the biggest factor for me wanting to go internal versus staying in a consulting role.
Is the non-consulting role, is it slower pace than consulting?
It's a little slower. There's a lot more impact that I have within the company that I work for, and being able to establish change within the company that I don't wouldn't have within a consulting role. So it can differ a little bit. Right. It can be a little fast paced depending on the type of engagement and the priority that we have for the particular engagement that I'm on. For example, if I'm doing a hardware test, it may be at a slightly different priority for compliance reasons to have tested than if I'm doing a web app test, for example.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so do you see yourself ever going back to consulting, or you kind of like being an internal tester way more?
Yeah, I think for the company that I'm in, I think I want to stay internal. I kind of dread having those briefing and debriefing calls and going through that entire process. So there's a reason why I've been in IT for so long and now security. I'm not a super people person, so there's a reason why I'm on the back end of things in the shadows, so to speak.
Oh man, you're doing good on this recording. You know, your voice, you could be on a radio show, I think. I think your voice is good for podcasting, so
You're too kind. You're too kind.
I've asked this question multiple times this podcast, but it's one of the biggest challenges that I'm facing right now myself, so I'm going to ask it again. Because you have a unique insight that, you know, other people don't have, and I want to get your insight on this. So, for the OSEP, the OffSec Experience Penetration Tester, what are some tips you can give someone who has an OSEP that's looking to get the OSEP? What are some tips to success and pitfalls that they can avoid, like to get that certification?
So this may be somewhat of a hot take. I don't think the labs actually do much justice for the exam. I would say go through all the course material, do a lot of research on your own into the content that you're learning in the material, and try to build a lab of your own if you can. Right. A lot of the material covers AV bypasses, EDR bypasses, things like that. Start practicing on your own and get a feel for some of the lighter development work that you have to do to create your own custom code to bypass EDR, things like that. Start dabbling and doing research on your own.
Why don't you think the labs prepare you? Because you're actually the first. That is a hot take, by the way. It could be because everyone says that the labs, like if you can do good in the labs, you'll do fine in an exam. So I'm kind of curious why you think like the labs aren't that good.
So without, I guess, revealing too much information, I don't know if it's due to the different exam environments, but it actually took me two times to pass the OSEP. The first time I failed miserably, and I just had a hard time. But I think looking back and taking it a second time, I think the labs were not exactly a one-to-one of what was in the exam. And that's the only reason why I say they don't really do justice for the exam. I think doing your research and kind of living and breathing that mentality of trying to bypass EDR or AV is going to help you out far more than what the labs actually did.
That makes
Again,
sense.
just my hot take.
No, I love hot takes. That's why I always ask people to provide a hot take at the end of our episodes. Uh, so that's cool that you say that, and that opinion actually aligns with a lot of other OffSec certs. I think the OSEP is probably the only one where people are saying like, yeah, the labs correlate to the exam really well, but the OSCP people say, yeah, I didn't learn nothing in those labs on the exam, and then I'm currently doing the OSWA, and I'm like, the labs are okay, but I just feel like I wish there was more in the labs. The reason why I passed OCP on my first try is because there was 50 something labs, and then the OSWA only has 8, and it's like, man, I wish I had more practice. So that opinion definitely aligns with like other people's struggles with like the other OffSec certs for sure. I have a coworker who did OSWA, and he's like, yeah, he's like, screw those labs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the OSWA is actually one that I'm interested in taking. I've been doing a lot more API and web app testing in my current job than I've ever have.
If you enjoyed this clip from the Hackers Cash podcast, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe for more hacking and cybersecurity content. And if you want to watch the full episode, you can get that by clicking here. Or if you want to watch the best video for you according to the YouTube algorithm, you can get that right here. See you in the next video.